A woman pushes through the crowd. Every step takes tremendous effort. 12 years of constant bleeding. 12 years of being called unclean. 12 years of complete isolation. She is breaking the law right now. If caught, she could face public shaming. But she has moved beyond fear into desperation. Her fingers make contact with the fabric of his robe, and something happened that had never happened before in Jesus' entire ministry. Something so unprecedented that it would stop him dead in his tracks. This is the story of the woman nobody wanted to touch. The woman the law said nobody could touch. And the moment she touched Jesus, power transferred in a way that appears nowhere else in Scripture. You will discover why this single touch reveals more about faith and divine power than almost any other miracle in the Gospels. Why her action was legally dangerous, and why Jesus refused to let her disappear into the crowd. Because what Jesus called her publicly would restore not just her body, but her entire identity. Mark 5:25 identifies her simply: a woman subject to bleeding for 12 years. Luke, who was a physician, adds critical detail in Luke 8:43. She had suffered under the care of many doctors and spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. 12 years of hemorrhaging, likely a gynecological condition. 12 years of anemia, weakness, watching her savings disappear into failed treatments. Ancient medical texts describe brutal remedies, cauterization, herbal concoctions. Nothing worked, but the physical suffering paled compared to the social death. Leviticus 15:25 was devastating. A woman with continuous discharge is unclean. Any bed she lies on is unclean. Anything she sits on is unclean. Anyone who touches her becomes unclean. For 12 years, this was her existence. She could not enter the temple, could not touch family members, could not participate in community life. If married, the condition likely ended her marriage. Ancient writings suggest women in her condition were isolated in separate quarters. She was alive, but cut off from life. And now she is moving through this crowd, touching people as she pushes past them, making them all unclean without their knowledge, violating the very law that has imprisoned her, because she has heard the stories about Jesus. Mark 5:21 sets the scene. Jesus has just crossed the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd gathers, and then Jairus, a synagogue leader, falls at Jesus' feet. This is significant. Synagogue leaders did not fall at anyone's feet, but Jairus is desperate. His little daughter, his only daughter, is dying. He pleads, "Come put your hands on her so she will be healed and live." Jesus agrees immediately. They start moving through the crowd toward Jairus' house. The crowd is massive, people pressing against Jesus from all sides. And in this crush of bodies, the woman sees her opportunity. Mark 5:27 records her thought. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him. She is reasoning, "If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed." Not touch him, touch his clothes. Most scholars believe she aimed for the tassels on his garment. Numbers 15:38 commanded Israelite men to wear tassels as a reminder of God's commandments. These tassels represented holiness, connection to God. She reaches out. Her fingers close around the edge of his cloak. Mark 5:29 records what happened instantly. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. Instant, complete, total healing after 12 years. But here is what most people miss. Luke 8:46 records Jesus saying something that appears nowhere else in his ministry. "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." Power left him involuntarily. And his next question will terrify the woman who thought she could slip away unnoticed. Jesus stops walking. In the middle of this urgent mission to save a dying child, he stops. And he asks, "Who touched me?" The disciples respond with logic. Luke 8:45 records Peter saying, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." What kind of question is that? Everyone is touching you, but Jesus insists, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." This is extraordinary. The only miracle in the Gospels where power left Jesus without his conscious intention. Every other healing, Jesus initiated. He chose when, where, who. But this time, her faith pulled power from him before he even knew who she was. The Greek word is dynamis, dynamic power, raw spiritual energy, and it operated like a law of physics. Desperate faith touching the source equals automatic release of healing. The woman realizes she cannot hide. Mark 5:33 describes her response. Knowing what had happened, she came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear, terrified, not just of Jesus, of the crowd, of Jairus watching this unclean woman admit she has been contaminating everyone. Luke 8:47 records that she told him in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Every humiliating detail, every failed treatment, every rejection. And as she speaks, a messenger arrives with devastating news for Jairus. Before I tell you what Jesus said to her, a quick word. If these biblical narratives are revealing details you never noticed before, subscribe now and turn on notifications. We uncover one forgotten story every week. Now back to the woman. Because what Jesus called her had never been used before. Luke 8:49 records the interruption. While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from Jairus' house. "Your daughter is dead. Do not bother the teacher anymore." The timing is brutal. If Jesus had not stopped for this woman, would the girl still be alive? Two desperate people, one healed, one who just received the worst news a father can hear. Jesus turns to the woman first. Mark 5:34 records his exact words. "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Daughter, the Greek word thygauter, a term of familial intimacy. This is the only time in the Gospels where Jesus calls a woman daughter. For 12 years, she has been defined by her condition, unclean, untouchable. And in one word, Jesus gives her a new identity. You belong to the family of God. Your faith, he says, not my power. Your faith healed you. Faith desperate enough to break protocol. Faith that risked public shame. Go in peace. Shalom. Wholeness. Restoration of everything broken. Not just physical healing, but social restoration. She is released back into community, back into life. Then Jesus turns to Jairus, the man who just heard his daughter is dead. And Jesus says 5 words that connect both stories. Do not be afraid. Just believe. Just believe. The same word, pistis, faith. The same lesson the woman just demonstrated. Jesus continues to Jairus' house. Everyone is wailing and mourning. Jesus says, "Stop wailing. She is not dead, but asleep." They laugh at him. Jesus takes only Peter, James, John, and the parents into the room. He takes the girl by the hand. "My child, get up." Luke 8:55. Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Resurrection. Jairus received more than healing. He received his daughter back from death. And the delay, the stop for the bleeding woman, was not a mistake. That was the lesson. Now comes what transforms this story into revelation about how faith actually works. First revelation. Power operated by faith, not by Jesus' sovereign choice alone. Every other miracle follows a pattern. Someone asks, Jesus decides, Jesus acts. But this time, power left him before he made a decision. Luke is specific. I know that power has gone out from me. Past tense, already happened. Her desperate, reaching, risk-taking faith completed a circuit. Power transferred. The text is clear. Her faith activated healing before Jesus even identified her. Second revelation. Jesus exposed her publicly for her restoration. She wanted anonymity, touch and disappear. But Jesus insisted on identifying her. Why? Because private healing would have left her still unclean in the eyes of the community. But public identification by Jesus, public declaration that her faith was commendable, public use of the word daughter that restored her socially and spiritually, not just physically. Third revelation. The interruption was not delay, it was preparation. The story is structured deliberately. Mark places the woman's healing inside Jairus' story. Why? Because both teach the same truth. Faith, not circumstances, determines outcomes. The woman had every circumstance against her. 12 years of failure. No money, no standing, legally unclean. But faith broke through. Jairus had death against him, the ultimate circumstance. But faith brought resurrection. The interruption taught Jairus what he needed before facing his daughter's death. That faith matters more than timing. That power operates in response to trust, not panic. So what does this mean for us? God responds to desperate faith. The woman did not have perfect theology. She just reached out in desperate hope, and power responded. God meets us in our desperation, not just in our polished prayers. Faith can activate divine power. This story suggests there is a kind of faith that reaches, that connects, that pulls power from heaven. This woman demonstrates what that looks like. God cares about social restoration, not just private healing. Jesus insisted on public identification, public declaration of her worth, public restoration of her dignity. He does not just fix our problems, He restores our identities. What looks like delay is often divine preparation. Jairus watched Jesus stop, felt the panic of wasted time, received news his daughter was dead. But that delay deepened his faith to believe for resurrection, not just healing. For 12 years, she was the woman nobody would touch. After one moment of desperate faith, she became the daughter Jesus called out of hiding. Her bleeding stopped, her isolation ended, her shame lifted, her identity changed. And Jairus learned that delay was not disaster, it was preparation for miracle. If this story opened your eyes to something you never saw before, subscribe and turn on notifications. Share it with someone who needs to hear that desperate faith still moves heaven. Leave a comment. What part spoke to you most? Whatever you are reaching for right now, whatever healing you desperately need, reach for Jesus. Reach through the crowd. Reach past your shame. Your faith can pull power from heaven.